Hello everyone, I have a new journal to share with you today. It's a floral junk journal, very similar to one that I've made and shared before. But I thought I would share it because it has a different cover. There's a few things that are different, the tags in there are different, and it's also for my own benefit because I will forget them if I don't make a record of it. So this journal has a fabric cover, and that's the side. It's so pretty. It's got, I think it's pretty. It's pretty even if I say so myself. It has a bow here with pearls on it, a couple of some fabric roses, fabric flower with a teeny bit of bling, a silk rose there, and these teeny little flowers and some pearls. I really like this journal. I love the fabric as well, and that's the back. And it has this, oh, that's the side, lots of lace and stuff coming out. And it has this old ribbon. And this is from sheet music that I have, that I scanned in, made it smaller and inked it and stitched it onto the cover. So I've put this hanky down to enable me get this in frame. So I hope you can see that okay. So I will flip through it quickly because I have a video that's almost very similar of a journal that's identical in lots of ways but also different in some ways. So this got this tuck spot made of card, which is covered with this pretty paper. And in here is an acetate tab with some dried rose petals, Tox card, oh god, I can't even speak. A card tag that has some fabric sewn onto it with a silk rose and some tea-dyed paper that goes in there, but you can also write on the back of that, and some pretty paper and an envelope. So they go in here. This is the front of that sheet music with a fabric trim. This is one of the tags that's different. I really like this one. Lots of bits sewn together, just bits of pretty fabric. That's some tea-stained linen type fabric, some silk, bit of a silk rose, lace trim, fabric with roses on it, and it's got this pretty trim there, tea-dyed that as well, and a linen tab at the top and a bit of paper so you can write on the back. There are quite a lot of tags actually in this journal. Here is some vintage fabric which I've sewn onto the page with the silk paper leaf sewn on, and this is some of my artwork which you may have seen if you've seen my other video, scanned in and printed out onto tea-dyed. Oh no, this isn't tea-dyed card, it's just not white card with inked edges. Some old sheet music with a bit of fabric sewn on, stenciled with a stencil on it. Lace trim. This is another tag. Fabric, bit of crochet there, button, different bits of fabric there, and you can write on the back. Sheet music says pinks, some of my artwork, lace trim and a flower, roses page, lace trim. Here, like in the other journal, there's some silk, this pretty rose fabric here, lace trim, some roses in tracing paper, and some tea-dyed paper with fabric tab. And this is a vintage rose printable from the Graphics Fairy, back to tea-dyed paper. Lace trim there, an encyclopedia page about roses, and just an embellishment which I made with some paper, tracing paper, ribbon, fabric rose, some paper ruffle sewn onto the page there, vintage printable. which has been inked and backed with tea-dyed paper. Got fabric tab at the top. Some of my artwork. This is some wallpaper, which I really like, so I put that in. Vintage printable encyclopedia page, some sheet music, another tag. It's mainly really the tags I want to show you, because everything else is very similar to the other journal. This has got the vintage fabric tab at the top. This pretty fabric here, lace. I think that's lace. I don't know what you call this. Cotton lace or something. Button. There's a ruffle sewn on there, and this pretty purple fabric, and there's paper on the back. Vintage printable, sheet music. I really like this music here, because this one is like the original sheet music. It's not scanned. It's not a scanned image, but it's so old. It looks like it's had some of our aging treatments, but it's just old like that because it's old. It looks like that because it's old. This is another tag. I really like this one. This is some silk here. Some pretty fabric. There's a bit of fluff on it with roses on. That's from a silk shirt. Buttons. This is silk as well, actually, with the flowers on. Lace trim, another button there, and some vintage ribbon at the top. And you can write on the back. I really like this one. So that's for my own records as well, so that I don't forget it. Let's come off that. End of the first signature, some of my artwork. A page about lavender, lace tuck spot here with pretty flower. This is a vintage printable from the Graphics Fairy, and it's got this green fabric at the top. You can write on the back. And all the paper clips have got some kind of fabric or ribbon on the ends of them. That's one of mine, cornflowers. This I like, made a tuck spot out of some of that silk fabric with flowers on, and I've backed this actually with canvas just to, because it's really flimsy otherwise, just to make it a bit more sturdy, and sewn that onto the page. And it's got a lace, I don't know what you call this, fabric lace flower, which I inked, and made a couple of matching tags where I just sewed on some fabric and lace onto the tags, so they go in there. Vintage printable, which has been inked and got some lace at the top there, and this tag which goes nicely with it. Some I think this is upholstery fabric. It's got flowers on it. Tea bag, pretty button, very vintage trim, pretty fabric on tea-dyed paper on the back. This journal has got 3 signatures and 120 pages front and back. This is the middle of the second signature, and it's got a paper bag that you can open up and put stuff in, and it folds back that way. So it's got fabric, some paper leaf, fabric rose, bit of ribbon, vintage trim, lace trim, and some fabric there, and that folds that way. And this, it's attached to cards because it's quite heavy otherwise, so just to support it a bit better. Another tag. This one feels really, I don't know what to call it, squishy. It's kind of quilted because it's got a layer of canvas in between the fabric and the paper, so it feels a little bit more substantial. And it's got some patchwork there, and pretty rose fabric sewn there, tab, and a ruffle there with some velvet and some sequins, and it's backed with tea-dyed paper. Some of my artwork, artwork print, encyclopedia page, music paper, a vintage printable, and that's topped with a doily, a bit of a doily there. Tea-dyed paper pages, page about lilies of the valley music, which has got lace trim, vintage printable, and that is topped with some felt. Yeah, some felt. I don't know if that's in frame actually. I'll push that, bring that down so you can see it's topped with some felt. Tuck spot here, which it's got some vintage fabric, some ribbon and a leaf, paper leaf sewn on. And in here is another vintage printable which I've sewn some lace onto with a tab, a bit of trim there as well. Page about lilacs, which has got some lilac ribbon on it and a teeny bit of lace there. This is a an envelope I made from the wallpaper, and there's a ribbon trim at the top, this pretty tag inside with fabric, a bit of some doily and some pretty paper, and a lace tab also sewn onto tea-dyed paper. And there's a, I don't know if you can see that actually, and there's a little fabric flower there. Okay, tuck spot with some more wallpaper, some upholstery fabric and a fabric leaf sewn on and some lace. And this is made out of some catalogue pages, a book catalogue of books, just sewn together to make a tag, and some fabric and lace trim and pretty paper tab at the top. This is a, I like this one too. This is a vintage printable that's topped with some lace and some fabric and a bit of doily, and I think altogether it looks quite nice. Oh, yeah, that was the other side of the paper clip. That's a vintage printable topped with some felt tab. And this is just a collection of different fabrics, which the paper clip has got some pretty fabric on it as well. And just a collection of fabric really. It's nice to have a bit of fabric in a journal. Some pretty rose fabric there. They've all got roses on. There. And there's a hint of floral there. I don't know if you can see it on that linen there too, topped with some lace. And this tag is made from a vintage napkin with some trim, some pretty fabric, and a corner of a napkin there as well with that pretty embroidered flower on it. And it's got a tab there, and you can write on the back. I really like this one too. Some of my artwork. And that's the end actually. That's the last page, epilogue. And in here, so on the back inside cover is the same as the front. It's got that tuck spot there. And in here are just some extra bits of the front cover of the music paper, another print of that. And all the music that I have used in the journal I've printed out onto card and topped with the same fabric that I used for the cover of the journal. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that, and have a wonderful day, morning, evening, wherever you are. And until next time, lots of love. Bye bye.